Welcome to T-Shirt Tuesday here on the Real Kyper at noon show. Well, we are still in a pandemic, so in theory, every day is a T-shirt day with the Real Kyper here. But sounds pretty good on a Tuesday, doesn't it? Nick Kypreos here, and yeah, one team down, one still hanging in there. I think Doug McLean had both teams last night extending. While that was the case with Colorado, well, we know the Boston Bruins are going home. Now, on our thumbnail in the show, there's so many storylines with the Boston Bruins and where they go from here. Of course, lots of talk about Chara and his $2 million 1 year deal expiring and whether he'll come back or not. That one certainly is one that's going to get a lot of attention in the next little while. Torrey Krug as well, in terms of, is he the best defenseman out there that's available as a UFA now? A quarterback specialist on the power play. His deal's up where the Boston Bruins bring him back. And then there's a few players getting a little long on the tooth. Dare we say that Patrice Bergeron is anywhere near retirement, but there are some decisions when it comes to maybe David Krejci, and he's got 1 year left on his deal, and in theory, he is the highest paid player on the team at over $7 million. And you wonder, with 1 year left on his deal, would he be back? But at some point, you got to look at the Boston Bruins and say, yeah, there's going to be some retooling here. Now, we started our thumbnail on the show on Tuukka Rask. And while we'll look at the 24 team tournament with regards to the Boston Bruins, and yeah, being a disappointment for a lot of fans, Bruin fans who watched the team over the course of 70 games stand out amongst the best. So they're all asking today, what happened? And where does it go from here? And what about Tuukka Rask? And say what you will, and I like to go on social media every once in a while and check on the temperature. It was not a shortage of people that still blamed Tuukka for leaving. And whether or not we all feel that's fair or not, we do know that there was a family situation that was addressed by the Boston Bruins and by Tuukka. But when we look at the goaltending scenarios around the whole league, it's really an incredible time for all goaltenders and where teams stand with their goaltending. I went on yesterday's show and I talked about, would there ever be a $10 million goalie again? Would teams now invest that much of their salary cap in the goaltending position? We know that you got to do it with guys like Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, those frontline centermen, those number one centermen. But at the goaltending position, do we still feel the same way that there could be a Carey Price? Could there be a Markstrom now, who we believe would set the market for the goaltenders? Is there a better guy out there right now? Robin Lehner may give him a run for his money in terms of being the best available goaltender when this is all over with Vegas. Both those guys looking at unrestricted free agency. But can they reach now? If one was to take their team to a Stanley Cup champion, could they demand $9 or $10 million and a flat cap? Probably not. But does that mean that they can't get up around 8? I think it's a stretch. I don't believe for 1 second, even if you're Markstrom or Leonard and you have this amazing run right to a Stanley Cup, that you would be in a position to ever command that type of money again. And while we now look at some teams having some success with a 1A, 1B, maybe you're better off with two goalies at $3 million each than you are one at 7 or 8. And that brings us to Tuukka Rask with the Boston Bruins. 1 year remaining at $7 million. And we know that some of them believe that he won't be coming back for various reasons. One of them is that he quit on the team, that he doesn't have the desire to play anymore for the Boston Bruins. Some questioning whether he'll even come back at all. He did hint prior to all this craziness with the bubble, he did hint at the fact that he's not sure on how he feels about playing again. Did he hint at retirement? Yeah, we got the feeling that he hinted at retirement. Does he even want to come back at all? And that, I think, is really the underlying message here. And you can sit there and judge it all you want. And we know that there's arguments that he quit, and there's arguments to say, no, family first. And he mentioned that in his uh, press release, his exit statement, leaving the bubble, that he wants to be with his family and he picks his family first. And I don't think anybody can have an argument with that. But prior to that, he did set himself up. And while we also look at Fleury with his strange tweet, it kind of got left right there in its place. But with Tuukka, it was much different here. There's still a trail off of his comments that he wasn't happy in the bubble, that it was dull, that it felt like an exhibition game, that I'm not really getting the energy or the juice out of it. And that, say what you will about different scenarios with his family, there was no family mention when he made those comments. There was no message of, it's a personal thing, I have to go home, or I need to be with my family. There's none of that. It was just Tuukka feeling like he wasn't having any fun. So in that scenario, could he shut it down? I know there's a lot of talk right now about Tuukka Rask not coming back and retiring and walking away from $7 million, because that's the deal now. If you look at Tuukka Rask and his career earnings at $55-60 million, is it a lot easier to walk away from 7 when you've got that much money in the bank? That's a question only Tuukka can ask or answer today. So we look at the Boston Bruins and we say, was last night their last chance with that core group? And that's another question for, I think, Chara as well. Do we think that Chara could sign one more year? Absolutely. Could he play and not look out of place? Yeah, absolutely. Can he send McAvoy in to pick up the puck and wheel it out one more season? Absolutely. The question is, does he want to? Is he now in a position to say, I've done my job? Carlo, McAvoy, this is your team now. I've done my work. Those are tough questions now for the Boston Bruins. And we know it's a tough crowd in Boston. They like their champions. And they want Boston to compete. The only question is now, will they be in the market for another goalie? We also have the Vegas and Canucks series going into a scenario where Canucks got their backs against the wall. There's even talk, I think I heard Elliot Friedman question on whether or not Vancouver would go with Demko. Can't be. It's got to be a Vasilevsky situation with Tampa Bay where, hey, this is our goalie, sink or swim. This is our goalie. So we'll keep an eye on that tonight. This is going to be a fun show. Okay, first and foremost, I'm giving away a Harley, right? Never done that before at Sportsnet, but for you all watching and listening, you've got the chance to do that on blitzbet.eu. So all you have to do is just lay a bet as little as $1, a loony. It's shaking in your pocket right now. Look at it and say, I think I can turn this into a $40,000 Harley. How's that? All I got to do is put $1 down, and I'm instantly in a contest. And I can do that once a day until the Stanley Cup final. That's when I'll announce right here on the Real Kyper at noon show who won a Harley. That's pretty cool. I also have Colby Armstrong coming up. I got a chance to catch up with Colby earlier today. We're gonna dive into all of it in terms of Colorado's newfound life. We know that there was a goaltending change that happened, I believe, 2 nights ago when Franzus could not go. I'm told now that it wasn't anything specific that happened to him in Game 4, that whatever was troubling him was a nagging injury to the point where he just couldn't go anymore. So what does that say? says it's not serious, which is good news. But it also says that those things, in my experience, probably need a week to settle. Inflammation somewhere, yeah. Goalie, hamstring, hip flexor. But it doesn't seem like he should be available next game, which means Hutchinson. Hutchinson got his first full taste of NHL playoff hockey at what, age 30? Not a bad outing. What was better than getting spotted 3 goals in the first 12 minutes and 5 in 15 minutes? Come on. Nothing will make you feel better in your first NHL start. Get that comfort zone with a lead like that. Now, as Dallas get a one-off here, can you look at the body of work that the Dallas Stars have done in the last little while and said, hey, shit happens. Yeah, if we're going to lose, let's lose really badly. Let's lose to the point where we're kicking ourselves right back to where we need to be next game. It might be better for Dallas to actually lose a game like that than lose double overtime like the Boston Bruins. So we'll see where the real Dallas Stars are probably in the next 10 minutes of game 6, because that was a team that struggled to score goals. And now the goals started coming about fairly easy. Really easy. To the point where, like, where was that all regular season? And we know they'll test Hutchinson a lot more if, in fact, he goes in game 6. So my first guest today has not made his appearance yet on Real Kyper at noon. He's a guy that I've known, really got to know in 2007 when he was first traded from Pittsburgh to Atlanta, and he had a chance to work with me and Darren Millard with Sportsnet, covering that 2008 Stanley Cup final between Detroit and Pittsburgh. And I'm going to talk to him about that, plus so much more. So please enjoy the presence of one Colby Armstrong on the Real Kyper at noon show. All right, we've had a few guests since we've started, over a month ago, and all of them have been great, but I know you all out there will enjoy my next one. Colby Armstrong from Hockey Night in Canada and Sportsnet. First of all, Colby, aren't you glad you didn't have to listen to my monologue to start the show off? Because that's Doug McLean's favorite part of the show.
Yeah. You know what? Oh, I've been watching a lot of your shows, Kippy, and great job and congratulations, by the way. And I love how I love how Dougie just chucks out that's his line, when
Yes.
when he has a good cut, and he'll go, great monologue, Kippy. Really, really earth shattering. So anyway.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. How many Dougisms can we pick up? But Colby, first of all, congratulations on all your success as well. I've been watching the playoffs like everybody else out there, but to watch you on Hockey Night in Canada and the great job that you've done at Sportsnet, I got to be honest with you. There's a sense of pride in me because I did kind of take you under my wing a little bit, didn't I?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And I always tell this story, but the first time I ever did TV for hockey was with you. You took me under my wing then. And then when I started doing this, just all the advice, the help, being able to do shows with you and sit next to you and watching guys that have been doing it a long time, how they prepare and get ready and, what to look for and how to put shows together. I guess had no clue what really goes on behind the scenes or, the kind of detail to the work that it actually takes to be good at this. And I'm working at it, Kip, but
you're doing great.
I was lucky to be, around some really good people. When I first started out and along the way here. So you were awesome for me, man. And we had a lot of fun in there too, because you spent lots of time together sitting there watching games. So it was great sitting and hanging out with you.
By the way, Colby, I wasn't fishing for that great of a compliment. I certainly don't get them with Doug McLean at all. But thanks for that. And I often tell Colby the story of me, you, and Darren Millard, and we were in the press box. And I think were you recently retired at that point, or were you just thinking about getting into broadcasting? Because it was just prior to puck drop. We're covering the Penguins during the playoffs, and I look over and I see a tear in your eye. And I don't bring this up to embarrass you, but I bring it up to tell the people who are watching and listening how emotional it is at times when you start thinking about the next chapter in your life, and also kind of letting go of a dream. And your dream was obviously to win a Stanley Cup in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I remember it clear as day, because I was actually still playing. It was when I got traded out of Pittsburgh.
Yes, and you went to Atlanta.
I went to Atlanta, and you guys had called and said, hey, you know what? You're fresh out of Pittsburgh. Why don't you come in? And this is the first time I ever did TV. Why don't you come in for the final? And it was Detroit against Pittsburgh in the final. And I'm sitting at the keg, and I'm eating dinner with my wife and some friends, and we were watching game one. I think it was maybe the conference final games when it was kind of put into motion. And I was watching games. I was eating. I was in the lounge in Saskatchewan, and I get this call. Hey, why don't you come? We're thinking of having you down for the final. It'd be a great opportunity, for you and for us with some of your knowledge on the inside. I'm going, why would I do this? This is torture. I was just there like a few months ago, and these guys are storming their way to a Stanley Cup. This is the dumbest idea I could ever put myself through, like pure torture. And you know what? I sat on it. I thought about it. And then I agreed to do it and flew back out to Pittsburgh from Saskatoon, and got to do some games with you. But I remember that, sitting in the Mellon Arena, the old barn, crumpled up in the crappy press box they have up top there, sitting right next to you. And the guys started singing the anthem. The guys were came around. There's Stanley Cup logos all over the ice. I had never seen that with my own eyes or experienced, being in a rink with that magnitude of feeling, and the crowd, and just how crazy it was. And just to feel that, Kip, it just got me. I started crying. I know. Remember you put your arm around me. I never felt like a rink like that. Like the regular season's cool, or like first round, which is all I've done, is really cool. But to be in and feel the energy and what that's supposed to feel like, and like all my friends were skating out there, and you put your arm around me, you're like, "Don't worry, Colbs, you'll get yours. You'll get your time." Like, it was awesome. You were just such a good guy with that. But it hit me pretty hard just to see that.
I give you full credit, because I would believe that 95, 99% of players who just recently got traded out of a city that you envisioned winning a Stanley Cup one day wouldn't have done it, Colby. They would have sat there. And we know it's so natural. And we've been traded on a couple occasions to hate the team that traded for you, and to try to influence through negative vibes that if you guys were dumb enough to get rid of me, then I can cheer against you. Right. And, for you to come in that environment and be a professional, I give you full credit on that. And look what it did, Colby. It got you on Hockey Night in Canada, that decision right there. Yeah,
it was a good, I guess, if anything, experience for me, just to see what it was like, because, it was really cool for people that have never been to a Stanley Cup final, just the electricity in each city that you go to.
Yes.
And we were set up outside across the street from the rink at our hotel, and it was like pandemonium. There's people partying, drinking, and I'd just been there, and they're yelling, "Yeah, hey, what's up?" Like, it was absolutely awesome and crazy. But it's just to feel the atmosphere for probably any team in any sport that rolls to a championship. And then see how we watched the games, how we got ready for the games, how we broke down the games after, and some of the things we talked about experience-wise for me, for what I'm doing right now. That got me kick-started, and it was a good kind of get my pinky toe in the door a little bit to see kind of the life behind the camera and how it works. And it was something I didn't know what I was going to do post-career, Kip. I always had an idea. I wanted to kind of maybe get into this. But that was kind of the thing that was the opportunity to get a good look at it while I was still playing. And then a few other opportunities came a little later when I went to the Leafs. But that was awesome just to be with you guys there.
I can imagine if it wasn't 2008 and it was 2020 and me, you, and Darren Millard would have been in the bubble in Edmonton or Toronto, it would have been a little less emotional watching Pittsburgh and Montreal with no energy at all. There would you would have had dry eyes if we would have fast forwarded you to 2020 in that scenario. But do you think right now, Colby, we're starting to see the effects of a lack of energy at times watching these games? And that's not a knock against the players. That's pretty much a knock against the cards that they've been dealt.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think certain teams were seeing it maybe a little bit. And I'm calling it bubble fatigue. I think that's fair to call it that because, I was even talking, Kip, you talked to a lot of people in there and that are sitting in that bubble right now. I talked to guys before they went in and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. This is my take on it, not thinking, oh, this is going to be great. I got 4 kids. I got to go in the bubble, hang out with the boys, play some cards, play a little hockey. No big deal.
Golf simulator.
Yeah, this is going to be unbelievable. Like it sounds like a great getaway. And the guys were like, yeah, for the first couple of weeks, I'm sure it'll be great. But, then it'll become a grind. And, I think the day-to-day being stuck in there will become a grind. And I think it'll make this run obviously unlike anything they've ever experienced, but unlike anything they've ever expected or prepared for. So I think a lot of people mentally, probably more than anything, don't know really kind of how they're going to react to it once you kind of start grinding, once you start going. And I would think after, a few days and away from your family, yes, that's one thing. But, sometimes when I'm away from my family now for 3 days, it feels like a couple weeks. So when you're in there, yes, you have the distraction hanging with the guys, but I can imagine it being a little bit of fatigue in that bubble, Kip.
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit more in depth, and maybe the best example could be the Boston Bruins. Colby, we saw them as the best team during the regular season, over 70 games, 100 points. They were really set up well for what we thought was going to be a good run into the Eastern Conference Final. They didn't get there. They went up against Tampa probably a little earlier than they would have liked. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we didn't get the energy out of them that we've seen during the regular season, and maybe that fatigue set in. Tuukka Rask, and lots of talk, of course, about what the Boston Bruins will look like next season. Chara, Krejci, Torrey Krug, all valid question marks, but there's a lot of people out there in social media blaming Tuukka Rask, and maybe that's the fatigue that you're talking about, the bubble fatigue. We know it's hit other players, but not any to the point where they just they get up and leave. And it's not a disrespect to Tuukka Rask, because there is a family situation that we're not privileged or know about the depth of it, and that has to be considered. But regardless, it's not pretty out there for Tuukka Rask in social media.
Yeah, and I don't think totally fair. And I think, our us as people too, our expectations have to kind of slide with what's happening as well, right? And, we flip on the TV and go, okay, here's playoff hockey, and, it's under totally different circumstances, but we want the same thing, we want it to be exactly the same. And really it's not. Yeah. So, I think, with Tuukka leaving and kind of not being able to really see Boston's wheels totally get spinning in the right direction. And, from what we expected, like, this is the team that I think, Kip, a lot of people said, who's going to win the cup this year? A lot of people would have probably said a big percentage on Boston. And, due to the fact of the season that they had, yes, before the pause, and to the fact that the players that they have and how much leadership and veteran players they have in there. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with Boston now, but they were a team that kind of just couldn't grasp that consistency that I think people would have expected with this team through the playoffs thus far. And like you said, Tampa Bay, strong team, starting to kind of hit their stride here against them. I'm curious to see what happens with Boston now, because you named some guys that I think Krejci was maybe one of their best players here through the playoffs. He had jump in his step like I've never seen before. I think maybe the pause was great for him. He looked really good. But then you've got question marks, like you said, with Krug and their captain, Big Zdeno, and what's going to happen with him. And you start looking at the Boston Bruins totally different now. Is this going to be the same team coming back next year?
We heard Chara's comments last night that he wants to take some time. Mm-hmm. He'd have to sign another contract. But do you see a scenario where he does come back, or is his mentoring, his leadership ready to be passed on to younger players now, and he fades off to the sunset? Do you see any scenario of him coming back? I lend to him retiring, Colby.
Yeah, I would probably say he's done. He's had a great run. Watching him, he could probably do it another year, just because his attributes that he has could lend to him, hanging in there. But with the way the guys are moving, like, he doesn't move a whole heck of a lot out there, and I think if you watch him and McAvoy, he has to do a lot of work. Like, McAvoy is doing a lot for him, and they're going back to pick up pucks, and McAvoy's coming over and picking them up for him to wheel the net, and gets caught maybe trying to do a little too much at times, just because he kind of has to, with the way Zdeno moves. But with his reach, the way we saw him in front of the net, he tosses guys around still like crazy, but his attributes could lend to him maybe sticking around another year. But what a run for him if he decides to hang him up, for sure.
We saw Tampa Bay unable to get over the hump last year. And it just seemed like you've been waiting and waiting and waiting for this team. And possibly when you let your guard down a little bit, they now are in a position to go to the next level. And this is really without their captain, their number one guy in Stamkos. And we'll see what Kucherov, his situation. Of course, he took that stick off of Chara, and that would be a devastating loss if he's out for any amount of time. But it just seems we are looking at a different way for Tampa Bay to find ways to win, and that necessarily hasn't been in their repertoire in years past.
Yeah, and Palat's unbelievable right now, scoring goals like mad. He's like Kucherov. Braden Point, I don't know. This guy might be one of the most electrifying players to watch in the league. He's right up there right now. With his step, the way he plays, the way he carries the play, the way he changes the game. The guy's unbelievable. The guy is unbelievable. It was funny when they won last night, the overtime goal, Hedman scored, he was celebrating. And down here watching NBC, they flipped to showed John Cooper on the bench. Talk about a guy that was probably that guy, John Cooper. I'm telling you, he was probably the most happy of anyone that they got through the Bruins, because he, like, I've been saying, it's like everyone's like, Tampa's going to win. No, they falter. Tampa's going to win. They falter. And I think there's a lot of heat. People looking at John Cooper going, what's going on with this team? Like, this isn't working. And what's the first thing that usually the pressure, Kippy, that happens with these guys, these teams? Yeah. The coach always seems to, get it.
He's going to have to tone it down. He was this way when they beat Columbus out, and he's not going to make it. He's not going to make it.
He was so happy.
He's going to have to take a 2-week break himself. But it's only round 2.
Yeah. Well, that's how much it means to him with the pressure that he's had. Hey, Kip, the last few years, and the team that has been around him that he's, had his hands on, and trying to get over this hump of not being disappointing. Because they've been really disappointing. Like, that's something tough to swallow, to sit on what happened last year all year long and kind of get to this, and how are we going to do this? And now they're rolling pretty good. So of all the guys, yes, as the players, but it was just, for me, watching John Cooper just go bananas on the bench, like, just relief that they got through Boston, and they're kind of on their way, and they're kind of having some mojo, and things are kind of going good. Things are going their way. It's like, we didn't get puck luck, Kip. We didn't get puck luck. We didn't have anything, like I was saying last year. It's different right now, but he's feeling pretty good.
Their best players are their best players, and Braden Point on the overtime goal.
And they've got a good
he-
mix now, hey? They've got a good mix.
Colby, when I watch Braden Point make all these amazing plays, but then he's still the first guy on the forecheck on the game-winning goal when he outskates and outsmarts Krug. Krug thinks he has him on an angle, and yet Braden Point ends up with the puck. And then there's that. You know what he's got too? He's got that Sergei Zubov patience with the puck. Where everybody breaks. You've got a break point when you have the puck. We all have it as players where it's like, just get rid of it. It's enough, right? Throw a hoper, I like to call, where you're I just got to get rid of the puck. And he has that Zubov mentality where everybody breaks. I'm gonna take another second or two and make a better play. And
it might have been
on the game-winning goal.
Yeah, it might have been on Krug also a few games ago. Remember him by the side of the net? He got the puck and he went through the triangle and the D-man twice and then slid one out front. And most guys would go through once and try to ram it into the goalie's pads. You're in a scoring position, you're in that situation. But man, is he something else to watch? His legs, his smarts, his playmaking, his aggressiveness. He stirs the pot. He's involved. The guy's a star. The guy is an absolute star. And I talked to some guys there. They said, you see this guy. He doesn't even care to tape his stick. Like in that 5 overtime game, he didn't even retape his stick. He's just like a guy that just.
How many times would you have taped your stick, Colby?
Well, I was
in between periods.
Every period, I would do it.
I need a dry stick. I needed. I hated a wet feel on my tape. I hated it.
He didn't care. Braden Point doesn't care. He just takes a stick, never tapes it, just goes out there and dominates.
I hate those guys.
Unbelievable.
I hate those guys. I played with Ally Afraidy, who sometimes would get so frustrated during the game, he'd go to the stick rack and grab someone else's stick and start playing.
I could never do that.
And
I could never do that.
He was that talented where he would still look like one of the better players on the ice, regardless of the lie or the length of the stick.
Who cares? He doesn't care. Those guys don't care. They just play. Yeah, they're just good. They're just
doesn't
good.
care. And Hedman, he is the best defenseman so far in these playoffs. Is he not?
Yeah, I would say probably probably both ends of the ice. Probably the biggest presence.
Yes.
Blue liner for your team. Situational playing at both ends. His size, skating ability, the way he can chip in offensively, the way he defends. I think we're seeing also his a little bit of nasty, snarled compete level. He's chirping, he's pushing, he's involved everywhere on the ice, and he's got a little bit of everything. He can really do a little bit of everything inside of his game. So yeah, he has been that good. I've liked Theodore in Vegas as well. Really, if people haven't seen him play a lot, I think he should be opening a lot of eyes with what he's been able to do at both ends of the ice as well. But Hedman's an absolute horse, right? An absolute horse.
Theodore can certainly aspire to have that type of presence. He's not there yet, but nobody really is compared to Hedman. And when you're talking about a big body presence like that, it's so noticeable when he can get up and down the ice and make great plays. And what a fantastic finish in the double overtime. So while Boston was not able, Colby, to extend their series, we see Colorado decide theirs within 13 minutes. So three nothing. This was over in 13 minutes. And while everybody was wondering about Hutchinson and if he's able to extend this thing, we found out that Doug McLean could have played goal for Colorado in that first 13 minutes and had a 3-0 lead.
Seriously, Kip.
Seriously, Colby.
Seriously.
3-0. No, 5-0. And Dallas has had 2 legitimate shots on goal. 2. How can that be?
Weirdest team to me in these playoffs. They're a team that can't score, then they can score like shooting the lights out. they're big. They can check. Like I look at them sometimes. I'm like, what are these guys? Like, what is Dallas? What is Dallas? And I get it. You have a team on the ropes, and you're going to see their best. And but I mean, at times, sometimes I look at Dallas and I'm like, is this just a big grinding team? Like, what's going on? Or like, like, are they a goal scoring team? They got good enough guys.
No. According to the regular season, they're anything but a goal scoring
like a
team.
Trap defensive shutdown. Like that's what they do. It's been a tale of really two teams through the playoffs so far. And the times that they rode a wave of scoring goals lately, and it's been good for their guys to really get going. But I mean, I'm confused at what like the identity of them and what they are most nights, because it's kind of all over the place for me.
Well, their identity, I think, has been off that blue line, and while we've seen some good success out of a trio of guys, it just seems that Klingberg, Miro, Heiskanen, and even a guy like Alexiak, who's I think got 3 goals. There's been a tremendous identity in terms of what they've been able to do from defense to offense, and there's been a lot of guys that have benefited it. And usually it's Ben and Sagan, but now we've got so much more depth, and Pavelski has provided them a shot in the arm that he quietly did over his career in San Jose. But last night, they just weren't mentally ready to start this game.
Yeah, they weren't ready. They got down early, and then they tried to scrum their way back into the game. Like every whistle was a scrum. Every whistle was a penalty. It was just one of those nights, really, really, for them. I was thinking too, Kip, like, answer this. Like, if you're Jared Bednar, like, how much would you care to get the tweet from Alan Walsh about your goaltending situation? Like, he would be dying for a tweet like that if he had goaltending. Like, both guys, like, he's like, yeah, bring me a Alan Walsh tweet. Like, I got 2 guys. Like,
Colby,
like, what are they going to do with this?
Colby, you got Hutchinson, who, other than the relief job that he did in Game 4, has no experience. They've got a backup who is not their 4th best goalie in the organization, according to the depth chart, but maybe 5th. I think they like the guy in Sweden better. And you're looking at a team that was supposed to contend for the Stanley Cup, and you've got your 5th depth goaltender on the bench that's really close to possibly being an injury away,
isn't it?
Going in and trying to carry this team. It's nuts. The whole goaltending situation, in terms of where you think your starter was to go into this and where he ends up, and all these backups now coming in, it's mind-boggling. But Colorado is one of those teams that we favored to come out of the West along with Vegas, and yet we look at their goalies and go, how can they still win 2 more games?
Like, for me, that's the thing, right? Like, that's the issue. If you can shut down Colorado a bit, like look at every series, look at most games, and I hate talking about it, but goaltending is the most important. It's the most important by far, and to see Colorado with the team that they've had and not have the ability to have that real solid goaltending, like right now with the injury, and now they're like, this is an issue. This is a big issue for them on how they're going to deal with this, if they can even battle back and get by Dallas. Like, this is a big issue for them.
Yeah. And the analytics, we can talk about the scenarios of back-to-back games. And while probably the conversations with some teams, I'd hate to be in that room. I'd pull my hair out in about 30 seconds. But others like Cooper or with Vasilevsky, no problem all day long. Not an issue. It's not even brought up with Tampa in question of giving that guy a rest. And he's looked good. There was some talk, I think we heard Elliot on Hockey Night in Canada talk about possibly Vancouver looking at Demko over Markstrom. And I'm like,
I didn't, you know
Are you
what? I
kidding
would
me?
say, are you kidding me? I didn't think Markstrom looked confident last game. Like that was an off night for him from what we're used to seeing. Because I do a lot of his games, Kip. Like I like
Yeah.
Vancouver a lot. I love watching.
Yeah.
Exciting. It's
There's a
great
lot
to
to
the
love,
wire.
Colby.
Win or lose, like they battle. They got skill. They're up. It's not over. They might blow that game, but it's an exciting, fun team to watch for me. But Markstrom's a backbone, and I don't think he was his best last game. Like I saw a lot of, throwing his head back, like thought he should have had a few of those, some of those 5-hole goals on him. And I don't think I've seen him kind of that little leaky that he's usually rock solid and usually really on. So I can see maybe they talk about changing it up, but I can't see them going away from Markstrom. Like he is the backbone guy. Unless they're thinking, you know what, we're done. This might be it. Vegas is strong. We're drinking out of a fire hose against these guys. Like, are they not? They're drinking out of a fire hose against the Golden Knights. But maybe give Demko a little bit of a taste. Hey, maybe that's what they're going to think. Give Demko a little bit of experience, a little bit of a taste. It's not the same in the bubble with that atmosphere, but how good has this been for Vancouver, Kip, with this nice little playoff run, maybe unexpected this year, and for their young core, talented guys to kind of have this really good taste. It's
for
huge.
Sure. I watch Quinn Hughes, and I don't sit here and pretend that I know him really well, but there are times when I look at him and I'm a big body language type of guy. There's times when I sit there and I say he looks overwhelmed, especially with the likes of Carrier and Ryan Reeves coming at
nonstop.
You every night.
It's nonstop.
Right. It's nonstop.
They don't quit. Like, it's crazy.
While there's that, it's a great experience being in that environment. There's no better experience to understand that I got to find a way to deal with this or get a lot stronger in the next 12 months next time I'm up against guys like this. But man, oh man, does Vegas keep pounding that guy.
Pounding him. And on that one goal they scored coming back the other way, you see Hughes gets the puck in the O-zone. I love the way he thinks he thinks real, obviously like a forward kind of. He makes those nice little high risk. He does like a high cycle with the wingers and the offensive cycle. Like he's not afraid to move it and jump through right away in kind of a high risk area, which a lot of rookie players or young guys wouldn't think to do. But just his IQ in those areas is, some may say risky, but just so dangerous. He's just so dangerous. But he gets hit by Reeves in the corner, pounded by Reeves in the corner, Kip. Pounded. And that wasn't the first time. Reeves barrels up the ice and they just come down and just grind out a grease ball goal with Carrier falling on Markstrom in the crease. Like they are just, it is nonstop from first line to fourth line, from top D pair to the last D pair. They're fast. They move the puck. They're moving offensively constantly, and defensively they are just pounding you. Like this is a bear of a team. Just a bear of a team.
What's Quinn give up? About 40 pounds, 50 pounds, 60 pounds?
What did that feel like for Reeves throwing him? Like tossed him.
Is he 160 pounds right now, Quinn Hughes?
He's got to be about that, yeah.
Oh.
I would skate pretty fast too if I was that light.
Yeah, me too. Me too, faster than I've ever skated before. I'd kick myself because if I didn't ask you about Marc-Andre Fleury, because you know him as well as anybody, a teammate of yours in Pittsburgh. What did you think of his response the other night? We don't expect Peter DeBoer to put him back in for tonight's game.
Yeah.
But pretty good under those circumstances of the tweet, the image, what he thinks of his coach, to come back and have a performance like he did.
Yeah. And, I'll say this, playing with him and still being friends with him now, he's one of the, nicest, biggest hearts, best teammates. And, I've watched your show and, going through the tweet thing, Tweetgate, whatever you want to call it. And I heard you talk, like everything you said about him as a teammate, I think, and he's a guy that came in there, like you said, he's a franchise face of this team. And really, that team storms to the final on him. So the guys all in there know what he means. Him as a person, they love him to death. And so for me, experience in knowing him really well, I know that there's likely no issue within that dressing room with how they feel about him. He's that good of a guy and that good of a teammate. So, yes, it stirred it up. Maybe a message was kind of sent on defending his player. But at the end of the day, like, he's going to go in there and you can't tell me that the team's not going to battle in front of him when he gets his chance in there. Like, he's that liked of a guy, but he had to be good in moments. Huge save on Pettersson backdoor the other night. Like, I mean, they had their chances, and Fleury had to come up big acrobatically as we've seen him do plenty of times. But it was a year for him, right? His father passed away, and dealing with all that, and then dealing with bringing in Leonard, and then the pause, and you don't know what's going to come. And then I could see how he would feel kind of on the back burner, right? Like, I mean, he's been there, he's been the guy that's grinded the whole time, and deep down, no matter how good the team is, no matter what's on the line, guys want to play, Kip. Guys want to play. If you're a the seventh D man, and you had a good game. You had a good game in game 3, and they come back and they flip-flop the 6-7 back out, and you're out. And you're going, we won. How am I out? Like, that 6-7 defenseman that just got popped out going into game 4 after you won game 3 is PO'd. Yeah. PO'd. Like, big time. So it happens a lot of times in a lot of different positions, all over and up and down through your lineup. That tweet was pretty visual. Yeah. That was pretty good.
Well, but, and my point, Colby.
Said with Marc-Andre Fleury, who passed Ken Dryden for wins all time in playoffs. I mean, that's a whole different monster when you're dealing with a guy with his accomplishments.
And there's a whole different monster when it's guys like me or you or almost anybody else who and you could label us selfish, and you can question the timing, but this guy is different, and it. Yeah. A lot of people know it, and that's the one thing that you got to look at. Calling this guy selfish couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth when people started analyzing, as quickly as they saw this tweet come out. It's just ridiculous to use the word selfish and Marc-Andre Fleury in the same sentence.
Yeah, and it was pretty smart, I thought, really, if Allen was going to do that, right? If we want to really break it down. Because it was Saturday. When was it? Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
And
weekend.
Went out. Hockey night in Canada stays up.
Stayed up for about 24 hours.
They asked him to take it down the next day and addressed it in the media. Mark did, and then that's kind of it. But it was.
Yeah, I think it served a tremendous amount of purpose for Allen and Marc-Andre Fleury, and certainly Mark hasn't suffered. The team hasn't suffered. So,
and that could, guys in the room, Kippy, like, everyone sees that. You're sitting around the bubble. It's a big thing. Everyone's talking about it. It might not be as big because you don't have the press conferences in the room, and guys can only get called to the podium, but they're on social media. Everyone's seeing what's happening. Yeah. Everyone likes Marc-Andre Fleury. So it could also kind of be, something for that team to go, okay, Mark was in a little bit of the soup there. He was having to deal with this. They like him. And then he gets a chance to play, and they know, that he wants to be the guy. They'll push hard for him,
Colby, we got to ask you about the Islanders and the Philadelphia Flyers. They go on 7 p.m. tonight. I just wanted to ask you quickly, do the Islanders have that same feel for you as Dallas, where you still, as much as successful as they are, you're still wondering exactly what kind of team they are? At times we label them a dump and chase team, but we know they got players that have no problem gaining the line and making some pretty good plays.
Yeah. They've got consistency and really a total team buy-in to what they are, and goals will come off of it. And they've seen that. They have good enough players, and their lines are good enough. Their power play can execute. They were in a little bit of trouble last round. And Beauvillier and the power play exploded a couple times in one game. And they have guys that have the ability to change games. They have lines and guys' ability to produce and score. And they are they're a patient team. They are a patient team. They'll wait all night long for you to break down. They'll wait all night long for you to make a mistake. Yeah. And they get their turnovers in certain areas of the ice where they want it, where they can transition. They've got speed and skill to attack and quick strike. They'll grind you in the offensive zone and eat you up down there. And they have a total team buy-in from all four lines to play that style of game. So, I mean, they are tough, frustrating, at times ugly to watch. Kip, I'm sure you've got toothpicks in your eyes sometimes watching the Islanders. And that's just the way they are.
It just lacks emotion. I think it's not necessarily it lacks anything else, but they don't do enough to really piss you off or drive the temperature up. They're this very patient team. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if patience is really a good word to describe NHL hockey. And the other one is a chess match. When I hear, the broadcasters use the word, it's a chess match out here, I want to throw up, Colby. I don't want to watch NHL hockey.
You're watching soccer.
I don't want chess.
You're watching soccer if you want a chess match.
Yes, something else. But it works. It works.
It's the way they play. It works to a T for them. I don't think Varlamov gets enough credit for truly how good he's been as well. Like he's been a beast for them, and I think a lot of it gets swallowed up with some of the pump talking about how good he's been just because of the style of play. But it works, man. And I'm telling you, it's game to game. They play the exact same way. I give Trotz a ton of credit. I give those guys a lot of credit because, to come in and be consistent within that game every single game and just grind and wait and create turnover and flip it out. Okay, well, they buy time for when they get their chance. They're not going to play with house money if they get it something. It's got to be perfect. And to do that game in and game out with the consistency at which Islanders do it is pretty impressive. Like you talk about teams being well-oiled machines, Kip. Yeah. Like that team, the way they play is a well-oiled machine.
It's a bizarro world, Colby. It's 2020. So based on that and what we saw even last night with Colorado, shouldn't the Flyers win tonight 8-1 against the Islanders? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, I know. Like, I don't know what to expect. Honestly, I don't even know what to expect. I'd like to think the Islanders can close it out with the way they can play. And, they're kind of just choking the life out of Philly. Like, they really are. And coming into this, everyone was a lot of people talking about Philly, obviously, through the round robin. They're high flying. They look great.
Where are the goals, Colby?
Where are the big boys?
Where's Claude Giroux?
Philly big boys, Kip? Where are the Philly big boys? And
watch Max Pacioretty find ways to create offense for his $7 million. And then there's JVR where, wow, like that signing right now, you expect it to kind of come to the forefront here. He's got some of the softest hands when you signed him. He's like, how good is JR over the years that we saw with the Leafs in tight and being able to elevate the puck? And
you know what he was, Kip? He's probably one of the best, if not the best in the league when he was with the Leafs at doing that and around the net. The Leafs, a big funnel team, pucks to the net. It played perfectly into his game. It was, shot tips. Like he was there. It was perfect for him. But it's you're playing against an Islanders team right now that, they're under sticks. They're body on body, they're time and space team, and it makes it a little bit harder for guys, with his skill set to, find some success right now. Like I can see they're the boa constrictor right now, though, Kip. They're wrapped around the Flyers. They're just about to put on the death squeeze. And that's the way they play, through 60. And that's the way they approach it through a 7-game series as well. They just get it wrapped around, and it's just a matter of time.
And that goes 7:00 tonight
Yeah.
And before I let you go, maybe we can just do a quick tour around a few different spots. I've known you, working with you the last few years, covering the Leafs, but also the Pittsburgh Penguins. We know you live with your beautiful family down in Pittsburgh, and you do a lot of work regionally for Pittsburgh. I got to ask you about the Penguins, their disappointment. First of all, Kapanen getting traded there. I thought Colby, Pittsburgh, and Jimmy were very generous in their offer to the Leafs for Kapanen.
Well, yeah, big time. And a lot of people are saying, first, that's too much. But look at Jimmy. Look at what Jim Rutherford's done here in his time here. He's made two first-round picks. So you know what? I don't know. What does he have left on his deal here? He signed an extension as a GM. He's got maybe a couple years left. And the mandate, I think that he's thinking, with my core group, we're going to milk this thing and try to put up one more cup. And for him, first round pick, really, what are you going to, you got to get an NHL guy. You got to get a body in this lineup, a complementary guy to boost your core, boost your stars, boost your lineup to win. So, we've seen it over his time here that a first round pick is out the door pretty quick at the draft table. And, we saw, assistant coaches pile out of here right away. That was the first thing they did. Then the Kapanen trade, and there's likely to be more to come here in Pittsburgh with kind of retooling this team and retooling it on the fly to keep winning with this core group. I think, you're looking at how many years left of that, Kip?
Well, Colby,
3 years.
we watch Boston get eliminated, and now you start asking questions on Chara. What does he want to come back to? What's the team going to look like? Can I still compete? Is that what it's most important? I'll go to you and ask you this, because you're also, got a pretty good feel for a guy like Sid Crosby. How long does Sid hang in there with a team that he thinks can compete? And where is that fine line between, it's over as we knew it in the last 2 years, and we're going to have to turn over and maybe wait a year or two. And does Sid want to go through that? Or is he going to try to hold on? Is Jimmy holding on for Sid to get a couple of more years? Because I would not be surprised to see Sidney Crosby shut it down and say another 2 years.
Well, yeah, I think that's, I wouldn't say mandate, but I think that's the idea, right? That's the idea, is to, as long as you have Crosby here, as long as you've got, Malcolm Letang, and now you've, emerged Jake Gensel into that thing. Brian Rust is into that thing. Maybe a Dumoulin is in there as well. As long as you've got this nucleus of core guys, I think they've got to add pieces to try to keep going for it until the wheels fall off of this thing, right? Until the wheels fall off of those guys, and the main guy being Crosby. So my big thing, Kip, they have to add personality to this team. And I'm not talking about, funny. I'm talking about the way they look, the way they play, the way the team is constructed on the ice. And, they got a Tanev in there. I think he brought a little bit of that this year. He was a good ad, and a guy that could do a lot of different things from what they have, right? Like, they don't have a guy that plays with that edge in your face. He runs around and provides that energy. Good up and down 200-foot guy, but
Hornquist was supposed to. He's that guy.
Hornquist is that guy. Yeah, he is that guy. He doesn't get up at the ice as well as a Tanev, who's a lot speedier, but he's that guy. They love that. They love him here. I mean, he's that guy that gets every day going, practice in the room. But those complementary guys, some even of the depth guys, they've got to add more guys like that. Not as much of the guys that all look the same. You need a little bit of the personality in your lineup, guys that are a little bit on the line, guys that the wires cross a little bit,
That could be Kapanen a little bit. Kapanen plays with a little bit of edge.
Yeah. And I think he does. I think he brings a little bit of swagger. I think he brings a little bit of personality. I think he'll bring, obviously, speed and skill, and has the ability to score goals. But I think they have to look at guys more like that, as kind of the intangible complementary guys around the star core of this team. And yes, I think a couple more years, Kip. They got a couple more years
with Sid
trying to sniff. Yeah.
I've never seen Colby a goalie market or teams with their goalie scenarios so much up in the air. And Pittsburgh's no different with Matt Murray. Yeah. Somebody's got to go. We assume it's Matt Murray. Tristan Jarry is a good goalie who had a very good year, but is he ready now to step in and carry Sid to another, what they hope is a run at a Stanley Cup?
Well, this is the thing too, right? With Murray, when Fleury left, everyone's going, that's great. They decided to stay with Murray. They like Murray, but can Murray be a starting goalie just by himself? Because we never saw it. It was flip-flop with Fleury. Even in the playoffs, Fleury had a little action, then Murray came in and took it the rest of the way. So, for me watching, I'd never seen him kind of run the table as the guy, as just the guy, just him, just the guy. So I think we've seen some up and down play out of him when he was just the guy. And over that time, Tristan Jarry was in the minors, and Tristan Jarry was developing, and Tristan Jarry came in and he got an opportunity at the net. And, by all accounts, they expected more from him earlier in his career thus far, but, it took him a little longer to kind of develop and mature into what we saw this past season out of him, which landed him a spot due to injury in an All-Star game. So I think they're happy with the way Jarry's developed. I think they're happy with kind of the presence that Jarry brings to a game. Puck, he has a lot of different things. He can play the puck real well, Kip.
Yeah.
Just solid. Doesn't do anything more than he has to. Lets pucks hit him. And, I think he kind of came on as the guy this year. So, you talk about Matt Murray being moved. I can see that being what Jim may be looking to do coming up right now, especially when you look at the cap situation. They had to re-sign him. I mean, there's a lot of, it'll be interesting to see if they do move him, what they get for him, and what's going to happen here in the short off season or long. I don't know what are we doing? What's happening this summer, Kip? I don't even know.
It's going to be fun to watch.
What is going on?
No, it's get your seasons right. It's not this summer. The summer's gone, Colby. It's gone. It's this fall.
Did I lose half a year? I don't even know where I am. What am I doing?
You've been sleeping. So we also know you cover the Leafs, of course, for Sportsnet, and touch on Frederik Andersen. I don't expect him back. Do you? He's got 1 year left on his deal.
No, I don't know if I expect him back. I mean, I honestly don't. And for me, he was the guy. Isn't that nuts? Like, he was the guy. He was the guy, like, doing games, working games, who has to be their best player. And yes, they have a lot of star guys, but it was like, just because of the way they played, how poor they were in their own end, how many chances they give up. Like, Freddie had to be huge. Like, there was a ton of pressure on Freddie all the time. But, if you're looking at your team and you're going to have to, move some guys and you want to kind of change it up, and you've got to, he's the one guy besides Kapanen, who we already saw move, that you're thinking, if you're going to, change some things within your team and on your team, and you got Campbell, who you already made a move for, there's an opportunity there to better certain areas of your team that we in the media really like to beat up on them on their back end. And they need help.
I fully expect Kyle to do his best to try to, I don't know if the term's right, but downgrade that position, and maybe not downgrade it from a total skill level, but downgrade the salary of it. At $5 million for Frederik Andersen, I think he's going to try to move him and bring in a goaltender that could fall anywhere between $2.5 and $3.5 million. I think they want Campbell to eventually step in and be a number one, and they need an experienced buffer to get them there the next 6 to 12 months. So I'm really interested to see behind the scenes. I would believe that Kyle Dubas is very aggressive right now in finding a taker for Frederik Andersen in the last year of his deal.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talk about that, methodology with the goaltending, and maybe some of it's financially, obviously, when you look at the Leafs cap situation. But you're seeing some of these teams, and I just don't know. Like, I look at Carolina, who's a good team. I like their team. They're real good.
Yeah.
You got the one, the 2A and the 2B, whatever you want to call it. They got they're going rapid fire back and forth with guys. So
yeah, it's called thing 1 and thing 2.
Yeah, they got that going, and I don't know if that's we've seen teams find playoff success just kind of rattling it back. I mean, not a lot of teams have the luxury of what the Golden Knights have with their 2 guys. So yeah, it's it'll be interesting to see. We're starting to see Kapanen move, and kind of some of the more fallout of what the Leafs are looking to retool, and with the salary that they're paying their guys, how they're going to kind of bump things around right now.
Nick Kypreos, Colby Armstrong from Hockey Night in Canada and Sportsnet joining me. If you keep the comments coming, hit the like button, subscribe, tell your friends, and give me comments on what you think of Colby's setup there, because I'm watching it and I'm seeing beautiful framed jerseys. And I hope, Doug McLean, you're out there watching our live stream right now so you can understand that you can frame jerseys. It's allowed.
Oh yeah, Dougie's got he's got his thing. He's like this. Like, Dougie, you gotta get it down. You gotta get it right in there.
He wants the jerseys shown, and Doug's gone. Doug went a little cheap. Well, you've got beautiful frames on yours. He's got wire hangers from Best Way Cleaners at Summerside PEI. That's the best. Maybe he's advanced to wood hangers, but that's the extent of it. What are those jerseys? Tell us about those jerseys in the back.
Where am I here? This is my Red Deer Rebels Memorial Cup Championship team
that's
jersey,
a good one.
Framed. Yeah, that's a real good one. I got a lot of compliments from this one working. This is my draft jersey in 01 in Florida, Sunrise, where I got drafted. That's the jersey they gave me.
That's on stage, of course.
On stage, yep. And then the one behind me is 2007 World Championship gold. There's a gold medal in there. I don't know if you can kind of see it. It's framed in there as well with it. We won the gold medal in Moscow, Russia, which was my first time playing for Team Canada ever in my life. It was unbelievable to throw that jersey on, Kip. But those are I have a couple other ones that are framed, but I decided to put those ones up, make my little home studio here, getting by with what we can. It's not as beautiful as what do you got? Shiplap? Shiplap, big tread.
Yeah.
Big tread with the shiplap. It looks great, Kippy. It looks
really awesome. Good wallpapering. Really good wallpapering.
Is that what it is? Wallpaper.
That's great. I got the pucks from every goal I scored in the NHL. I think there's 12 of them there. It's all good. Hey, you because your career is just taking off, you're going to need a bigger studio.
Yeah, I got it. You know what? We just sold our house the other day, Kip.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we got to be out of this house in about a month and a half. And we've got to find a rental in the meantime because we're building a new house here, and it's kind of crazy to be doing. We had this plan for a long time, and then you know how the world has changed. But so here we are, and this is getting it done. This is getting it done.
Yeah. You got a little area for a shooting area, maybe an outdoor rink. I mean, that's where it's heading, Colby. You got your kids in minor hockey, and that's got to be a top priority.
I'm assistant coach this year, so it has changed a bit, but a lot of time. Telling you, parents, hockey parents, it's a lot of time put into 10-year-old hockey. I'm telling you, it's borderline ridiculous and stupid. But you know what I did? I'm turning into my dad a little bit because how our dads always had us, why don't you get the Joe Sakic, put a weight and a string and do this and get your arms strong, So we
because I can't hold my iPad and do that at the same time, Dad. That's why I'm not doing it.
Fortnite, get your Switch controller or whatever and just go like this and put a weight on it while you play. I don't know. That might be a new invention, but I did this thing, like you see how you have your wood stick in the back. I found one in the garage and I taped pucks around it for the kids. And I showed the boys, I taped some, strengthen your hands, just work it back and forth. Because these kids, how in tenure, their hands, they're losing pucks. And we put, and if we play teams that are a little better, the only difference is they're a little stronger than us. So I'm turning to my dad with some of these little like garage hockey strengthening tinkering moves that I'm pulling out.
Just don't be a yeller. We got enough of those, Colby.
I'm a D coach. I'm the D coach. So
Okay, good,
yeah,
good. Hey,
so we're poised.
thanks for doing this. I know that you watch the games as much as ever. You're still very big part of the day to day at Sportsnet. Finding time for me, it means a lot to me, Colby. Thank you very much.
Yeah. No, yeah, and congrats to everyone involved in your show, getting to talk with some of the guys, getting logged on here, and your set looks great. The show's great. Congrats, Kippy. Hope to be on again.
Something for you to look forward to 20 years from now when you retire. How about
that? There you go, buddy. Yeah.
Good luck with those 20 years, by the way.
If only I could be like that. Yeah, that'd be, you've done a great job, Kip, obviously.
You're well on your way, Colby. Colby Armstrong on the Real Kyper Show. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, Kip.
All right, we've had a few. Colby doesn't really think that on the Real Kyper at noon show we would use wallpaper, do you? Hey, would wallpaper make that sound? Not at all. What was that wood paneling that Doug McLean picked up Alan May when we were with the Washington Capitals? None of that wood paneling on this show. This is the real deal. Great job by Colby Armstrong. A wonderful person, first and foremost, and really good at being an analyst now on Sportsnet. And yeah, I kind of took a liking to Colby right away when he first came over at Sportsnet, and maybe for no other reason that I see a lot of myself in him. Like myself, Colby played on 4 different NHL teams, and yeah, he was a first-round pick. There's no question that I was a free agent, undrafted. That's the title of my book coming out in the fall. I'll make sure to pass that on to you guys, and hopefully you can pick it up in the fall. But undrafted, he was a first rounder. But in many ways, we went through our careers as being those type of players that had to be not only find a specific role on your team, but really be a good guy in the room. And that is far and away the most important thing. And when it comes to playing a certain role on a team, you have to have what we call emotional intelligence. You got to be able to read a room. Colby was great at it. I was pretty good at it. And when you factor different players all over the world, different cultures, it's not necessarily an easy thing to go walk into a dressing room and be that guy that can kind of hang out with everybody. Sometimes there's cliques, no different than an office that you work at it from your 9-to-5 job. But you need to be able to understand a room and work a room. And I think that's where Colby's really good. And I think it comes across when he broadcasts as well. So happy for Colby, watching him now on Sportsnet and Hockey Night in Canada, and look forward to watching him there for hopefully another 20 years. If he's going to mirror my career, Colby, you got to go 20 deep before you get to make a Real Kyper at noon studio in your own home. Okay, a lot of the theme today was about the Boston Bruins being eliminated, one of the favorites for the Stanley Cup, no question underachieving. And the question today, more than anything else asked, was can the Boston Bruins bring back Tuukka Rask? And it's interesting to watch a bit of the comments coming in. Jeremiah Maxwell, of course, great guy on the comments. He said that he thinks that Boston fans are overreacting, that there is a way that they can bring him back. And then there's others. Evkin says that the room's strong enough and the culture's strong enough if he wants to come back. And then there's Floxy20 that says, can you imagine a defenseman next year blocking a shot for this guy? Not a chance. So really good to hear those comments, really good to see both sides of it. I, for one, am buying into one key thing in all of this when it comes to Tuukka Rask. And we've heard a lot of comments, and yeah, it's well documented how we felt about the bubble being exhibition-like and no energy and all of that. But there's one other thing that really struck a nerve with me, and that was when he said that he was having trouble having fun, that, I'm trying to have fun here. And when you start questioning whether or not you're having fun when you play the game of hockey, and I don't care where it is, in front of 20,000 people, an outdoor rink, a practice, in the morning, in a freezing arena, if you're not having fun, then it's time to relook at things. And I think that's where Tuukka Rask is. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if he turns around and tell the Boston Bruins and their fans, thank you very much. It's over. I am out. We'll keep an eye on that story in the next little while. There'll be a few stories out of the Boston Bruins, and we'll watch it, because that was one of those teams that we thought should have been there that didn't make it.
How about the Lightning here, Kip? A lot of people talking about them. I know that we're doing a little offering with BlitzBet, boosting them on the money line.
We are, Jordan.
They were minus 130. Now they're plus 100. We are giving you money. Go do it. BlitzBet.eu.
We're boosting the Islanders and Philly in the favor, right? As well.
Absolutely. Minus 130. That's what I was just saying, actually. I read it incorrectly. Okay. No, that's my fault.
So not Tampa. Not Tampa. We're going Islanders and Philly. That's the one I'm boosting.
Yep, minus 130.
You're not getting better odds than that, folks. Right? You're going to be hard-pressed to beat the Kyper boost. So look into that on blitzbet.eu. And a reminder, Canadian deposits only. I know. I'm working on it. But as far as Tampa is, Jordan, it's so funny. We talked a little bit about this with Colby in terms of watching the emotion out of Cooper. And the feeling now is 2 down, 2 more series to go. You don't want to get ahead of yourself, but you really have a sense now that he's got a lineup that he can now throw on the ice and play and compete and win different ways. And while we look at Braden Point and Hedman leading the charge, one thing that he has not had in the past is those players like Coleman and Goodrow. And those guys have added so much sandpaper, gritty players, can get in on the forecheck, can kill penalties. There's so many things that those guys can do. So many people were so upset on the hit on McAvoy and whether or not that should have been a suspension, whether or not he should have had a 5-minute major. And that was Paquette, if my memory stands corrected here, after being on the air for over an hour, and yet nothing. So Tampa Bay has now shown that they've got the roster deep enough, and this is without Stamkos. And what an injury to Stamkos a few years ago would have meant to Tampa, and it doesn't now. It doesn't. And if he can come back, that'd be great. But if he doesn't, we still think Tampa Bay is deep enough to get to a Stanley Cup final. And judging how you feel about the Western Conference, it would be an interesting matchup right now to see the Tampa Bay Lightning versus Vegas. Is it leaning towards that, or can Colorado slow that process down by forcing a Game 7? We'll know more in the next 48 hours. But we're looking forward to that. Okay, I've kept you long enough. I really appreciate the support. The numbers keep going up, folks, and I'm thrilled. It's absolutely a thrill to see how many of you guys are tuning in, how many of you are now subscribed to the show, and how many you're pressing the like button. So for all of us here at Real Kyper at noon, thanks for joining. Colby Armstrong, thank you very much. And we'll see you all tomorrow. Enjoy the game tonight.